Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you all very much for coming for this very auspicious and glorious occasion. We're celebrating the 70th appearance day of His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami, an exalted Vaishnava who walked amongst us and was an exemplary disciple, an exemplary devotee. So many wonderful qualities that we can learn from and try to emulate. He had a glorious, glorious passing, really set the standard for leaving one's body. And he left us a treasure of books, a treasure in terms of his disciples, his followers, a treasure in terms of his exemplary nature. Very thoughtful personality. He made Krishna consciousness very relevant for all of us, very real, and was constantly encouraging all of us to be determined to overcome whatever obstacles may be there, and to go on, and to go on, and to go on, as he did himself. So we'd like to take a moment to honor our senior guests. Please, we have so many senior guests to be honored. Thank you so much for coming and joining us this evening. Prabhu will be our MC this evening. So I'll hand it over to him. And we request any children, we have the Bala Govinda room right next door. So any children are welcome to go there. We also have a speaker there, so you could still participate in the program and hear everything that's being said. Thank you so much. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Her Grace Vishaka Prabhu ki Vanchakalpatruvasya Kripa Sindhubhayavacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dear Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, the entire day we've been observing the memorial, and indeed we are very, very fortunate to have all of you here, in particular the senior Vaishnavas. And a most humble request, and that is if you could kindly switch your mobiles to silence. I'm sure that the mobiles are silent. And something even more important are the young Vaishnavas and the Vaishnavis, the little toddlers. The toddler room is there. It's our little creche. So do please have the toddlers there. But Prabhu's, just in contemplation of Kadamba Kanana Maharaj's achievements and the services which he had performed for so many, many years, and I was contemplating myself what's most dear to me. And undoubtedly for me, it was when he had somewhat project managed the Pushpa Samadhi in Mayapur. And that really deserves a clap or two. When we took the patron trip to India, the Dhams, in 1994, we were very fortunate that even Jayadvaita Maharaj had accompanied us along those jatras, along those pilgrimages. And in 1994, when the Samadhi was coming up, and I had thought to myself, I wonder who's project managing this. Such a colossal task. And for that, we shall always be indebted to Maharaj for just an incredible achievement. What an achievement. But without further ado, Prabhus, we are very, very fortunate to have here with us His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, and we'd like to request him to please come and share us his memories and eulogy for, in particular, Kadamba Kanana Maharaj. So, Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Om Ganatimilandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakoda Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripasindho Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was hearing a recording of Srila Prabhupada this morning, yesterday, time blurs, and Srila Prabhupada was discussing this Ahetukiya Pratiyata. Devotional service has no cause, it's unmotivated, it's not performed for some material gain, pure devotional service. And apratihata, uninterrupted. And Srila Prabhupada, in that context, brought up the example of Haridas Thakur. And maybe I'll come back to that in a minute or so. But it made me, I connected it at once with Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, because that was his that was a quality that he had in his devotional service. We would say, Prabhupada said uninterrupted, we would probably say something like unstoppable. Not to be stopped by material circumstances. The tendency is that when there's some difficulty, when there's some inconvenience, when there's some discomfort even, then we think about the alternatives. What would be less inconvenient? What would be less uncomfortable? What could I do instead? How soon can I leave? I know that when we were first going to Vrindavan in the early days of the Mayapur Vrindavan festival, we would be so glad to be there, and at the same time we would be counting the days before we would be coming back, right? Because there would be so many inconveniences, health problems, food problems, especially, and heat and this and that. So how soon can we go back at the same time that we're happy to be here? So that tendency is there to stop or slow down at least, or And Kadamba Kanana Maharaj would not do that. Among his slogans, I think, I don't know how much he spoke about, how much he used this slogan in public, but I know that it was at least a personal motto for him, was to rise to the occasion. Is that an expression you heard him use much? Yes? Yeah. That was his approach to challenges, to problems, to difficulties, to impediments. That, all right, we have to rise to the occasion. Not that we escape the danger, but we rise to the occasion. That's what he did. It might be heat, it might be disease, it might be gundas, it might be so many difficulties, personal. Vrindavan, there's a challenge every 5 minutes. But there's a difficulty and difficulties in between. So he would rise to the occasion. That was his motto. And we would say, take it in stride, not be perturbed and upset, worried. That all right, let's here it is. Of course, that was another motto. It is what it is. So it is what it is, and let's deal with it. When he got in touch with me about his diagnosis with the fourth stage cancer, of course it was what it was, and his approach to it was just, all right, let's deal with it. And of course, dealing with it at that time meant accepting it. It didn't mean fighting it, although we see a human tendency. People want to spend their life savings in their last 6 months to live another 3 days. Okay, that's hyperbolic, but they want to spend their life savings to live another 1.5 years. And that too under so many sufferings from treatments and this for essentially nothing. And his approach was, all right, it is what it is, and especially let's go to, I'm thinking I should go to Vrindavan. Go to Vrindavan and go, leave. Not run, but go. Then in Vrindavan, of course, you've heard many times and you've seen how he just kept going and going and going up to the last 2 weeks when he couldn't go the same way that he was going, but he still kept going. And I've told before how he just continued hearing, continued chanting, continued, giving that last address and chanting. And I've told before how he told me, I said to him that, because he said chanting is hard at one point. It was hard. Speaking was hard. So he said chanting's hard. And I'd told him that, every beat is worth a round. You can count it that way. And he'd said, no, I have to chant. And now I'm bringing it back to Prabhupada's discussion of Ohaituki, because Prabhupada had given the example of Haridas Thakur, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had met Haridas Thakur and essentially said the same thing to him, that now you're old, you can reduce your chanting. He was chanting, I think, 300,000 names. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you can reduce your chanting. And Haridas Thakur said, no, I have to chant. I have to chant. And Prabhupada gave that as the example of apratiyata. That even in his old age, even in disease, Haridas Thakur said, no, I have to chant. So then, what can I do? Someone may blame, say, well, Maharaj is really taking things too far to compare Haridas Thakur and his disciple Kadamba Kanana Swami. But the comparison is there. And I'm not, making some sort of theological claim about, Kadamba Kanana Swami being the reincarnation of Haridas Thakur, or, get something wild started in ISKCON so that the lights can start flashing and the keyboards can start revving up. But this is a pratiyapta bhakti, that when there's difficulty, then we continue to chant. Not that we just say, well, I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, I'm tired, I've lost my taste, this, that. No, I have to continue my devotional service. So his example is there, apratiyata. We can say following in the footsteps of Haridas Thakur. We're allowed to say that, following in the footsteps. We're all meant to follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas, follow in the footsteps of our spiritual masters, and continue with devotional service in spite of all inconveniences, in spite of all difficulties, in spite of all impediments. And that's one thing I wanted to say. The other came from a discussion I was having with Gopinath Acharya Prabhu, Maharaj's disciple in Oxford. I just was there for a day and a half, 2 days. And we were talking about different things. And of course, Gopinath Acharya is quite an accomplished scholar, increasingly a recognized scholar in Sanskrit and Gaudiya Vaishnava studies. And he remarked that generally what we hear about Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, especially, we hear so many things, but we hear about his brilliant managerial side, as we just did. We heard how Maharaj was project managed the Samadhi, and we could hear about how he managed Vrindavan and the Vrindavan Samadhi, and so many challenging projects. And that's all valid and worth hearing about. But what Gopinath Acharya said attracted him to Maharaj was Maharaj's absorption in scripture and, what should we say, philosophical understanding, deep understanding and appreciation of the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is a side that isn't always talked about because it's not seen as much. It's not seen as much. We see especially, usually we hear from senior devotees and they talk about the contributions to ISKCON in terms of managerial especially, and projects and things that have been established. But I thought it worth repeating or bringing up that Gopinath Acharya had recognized or appreciated this side of Maharaj, which is also runs very deep in Maharaj's character. In the last days of when we were together in Vrindavan, not the very, very last days, but before the last couple of weeks, in the midday, no, late morning, I used to come over to his flat and we would read together. We would read Srimad Bhagavatam alongside of Krishna book, because I was giving classes in the evening on Krishna book. So we began reading Krishna books side by side with Srimad Bhagavatam, with also the commentaries of acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or Jiva Goswami, and just sort of seeing side by side, and he would read from Krishna book, I would read from the commentaries, and we would discuss. And I appreciated his, first of all, relish of the subject matter, that it's not that, well, I'm a manager, I don't really get into this stuff, you know. He had that equally deep appreciation of these topics. We started actually not with some deliberate plan in mind, but I'd been reading the Venu Gita. That was sort of the last, before we started, that was the last class last chapter I'd spoken from in the evening class. And so we decided to discuss that the next day. And so there are very, very sweet things in those chapters, how the gopis are glorifying Krishna's flute playing, and it goes into a whole discussion of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, how they're all affected by hearing Krishna's flute. So all of these topics were there. And of course the acharyas really mine these subjects and pull out so many realizations and double meanings and triple meanings and hidden meanings from the text. And I was appreciating how Maharaj was appreciating them, and also how quick sometimes he was to understand perplexing things. The comment that acharyas would say something that was, you know, what do they mean here? And he would be ahead of me. He'd have it nailed, and that was the other side of Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, the side that relished hearing Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is what he would do in the evenings. I think I talked about that at night when he couldn't sleep. He'd be hearing Chaitanya Charitamrita, and during the day he would also be hearing Gopal Champu. So that both sides uninterrupted devotional service or unstoppable devotional service. And then and what is that devotional service? It's practical activity, and at the same time, deep appreciation, deep absorption. Absorption in the holy name of Krishna, absorption in Krishna's. Because when you chant the holy name of Krishna, Prabhupada said, implies form, qualities, pastimes, abode, entourage, all of those things are included in the holy name. Or when the holy name is there, when the holy name actually becomes manifest, then everything else becomes manifest. Prabhupada said the way, like when one leaf or one flower matures on the tree, it means all the flowers are going to be maturing. You know, when it's not that one mango matures on a mango tree. When one matures, they're all maturing. So when the whole holy name becomes manifest, the form, qualities, pastimes, everything. So all of these, so that's the other side, about which I would speak more, but time, I should stop. And there are other speakers that we'll have the opportunity to hear from.
His Holiness
Swami
Jai Swami
Maharaj
Maharaj
ki
ki
Jai.
Jai. Thank you, Maharaj. So, Prabhus, our next speaker, very, very special. And he's been with us as our spiritual master and spiritual guide and spiritual leader for many, many moons, together with Mother Guru. I must add that. And so we are indeed very, very fortunate to have Kripamoya Prabhu here with us, and we would like to request him to please come forward. Thank you. His Grace Kripamoya Prabhu ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna. Such a wonderful assembly. Thank you all for coming. I missed the joy of this morning, in which I discovered that there were many happy offerings of love to His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami. And I thought tonight was going to be a rather somber, sad occasion. But apparently not. Apparently everybody is in a good mood. At times like this, and I remember my own, back in 1977 when Srila Prabhupada passed away, there was a year where we were very sad and confused. This is an unprecedented event that had happened. Srila Prabhupada had passed away. There was a great gap, a great chasm had opened up in our movement. And we missed him terribly. And I remember in my diary throughout 1978 that I was writing letters to Srila Prabhupada, because they had told me, don't write letters to Srila Prabhupada. You know, Prabhupada gives a class, don't ask a question. We will ask the questions and we will answer them for you. Don't write letters to Prabhupada. Don't bother him. So now with Prabhupada's departure, I was able to write unlimited letters to him. So I wrote those letters and I asked him all kinds of things and I spoke to him all kinds of realizations. But mainly I was asking to be allowed to continue in his service somehow. I thanked him for everything that he'd given me and begged to be continuing in his service. So I fully understand what it means to suddenly be reft of one's spiritual master. And I think at times like these, it can be a little confusing because we are sad. Generally speaking, for devotees, we become confused at death. It's a sad time because we have lost someone, especially the passing of a Vaishnava who has given us so much. And yet at the same time, the first thing we learn as devotees is that for the soul there is never birth nor death. We don't know what to think, do we? There's contradictory emotions arising within us in our conversations. We're sad because we lose someone that we love, and we will never see them in that form again, at least for a long time. But at the same time, we understand that eternity beckons everyone, and there's nothing to be sad about. And when a great devotee leaves his body, it's a time of great joy. For just as he's held Krishna as a cherished relationship within the heart, so we know that Krishna, being very kind, will give him his cherished heart's desire very, very quickly. And as Srila Prabhupada says with Narada Muni, with the passing of a devotee comes just like the flash of lightning in the sky, instantaneous illumination. This sense of sadness and joy can cause conflict in the heart. Sometimes one feels happiness, and one thinks, I should be sad. This great devotee that I loved is no longer here. I should be sad. And sometimes we are sad, and we think, I should be happy. I should be happy because the devotee is with Krishna now. And in our exchanges with other devotees, the other devotee may say to you, why are you happy? You should be sad. And sometimes the devotee will say to us, why are you sad? You should be happy. It's a great conflict. And sometimes we may find that we just don't know what to feel. And in the space of 24 hours, we may have many different emotions. But I want to say to you tonight that both feelings are legitimate. There was a young devotee who had read that Arjuna was crying when his son Abhimanyu was killed. And the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, why was Arjuna crying? And Prabhupada replied, because Abhimanyu was his dear son. And the devotee, perplexed, asked Srila Prabhupada, but Arjuna was the hearer of the Bhagavad Gita. He listened to Krishna explain everything. So why was he sorrowful when Abhimanyu was killed? Prabhupada looked at that devotee as if he was somehow not quite understanding. And he repeated, because he was his son. That is why he was crying, because he was his son. When the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada says, when the spiritual master disappears, the disciple also cries, because no one can have a close a relative as the Guru. And yet when a great Vaishnava disappears, we should know that there is no doubt as to their final destination. In the Varaha Purana, the Lord himself says that if my devotee is unconscious at the time of death and is unable to chant my name, if he is not even awake, I will personally appear within his heart and cause him to remember me. How is it possible that that great personality that we have surrendered our lives to, that we have spent every waking moment remembering, will not remember us at the time of death. When we most need him, how is it possible that he will not remember us? We give our life for Krishna, and when we most need him, Krishna comes for us. His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj lived a life of joy, and he shared that joy with all that he met. And he spread it around the world. How many languages did he speak? 7, plus Sanskrit. He was preaching in each and every one of those languages, I believe. Person of great compassion, and we should say, despite all the challenges, a person of extraordinary generosity. As Jayadvaita Maharaj said that Maharaj loved Shastra. This was the secret part that you may not know. He loved Chaitanya Charitamrita. He loved the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he loved the very process for this age, Kirtan. I do not know. I spoke to Maharaj one time. I said, Maharaj, you always seem to be able to get the devotees up. And he said, what can I do? He said, I'm just like a sports car. I start the Kirtan, and within a few seconds, I'm going at 60 miles an hour. If you listen to Maharaj's Kirtan, you'll notice his joy, but you'll also notice his musicianship. That he was able to craft a tune mid-Kirtan that would embellish the original tune, but in a way bring it up even more so that it was more danceable. This festival that we're trying to create following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not only chanting and hearing, but chanting and hearing together and dancing. And Maharaj was able to get everybody dancing. And I do feel that because he was able to craft kirtans in such a way to give the joy and happiness of devotion through his very voice, to convey the enjoyment that he was feeling. They say that 80% of what we communicate is not what we say, but how we say it. And even when you sing, that communicates to your fellow devotees. If you're feeling joy leading a kirtan, everybody will be joyful. If you're feeling funereal or bored, or you're trying to attract others to you and not to the holy name, that will also show. So Maharaj was without guile, without connivance, without duplicitousness in his kirtan. Very simple, very jolly, very uplifting, and very danceable. And that's why so many came and took shelter of him. But what do we do now that we've been left behind? It's painful, isn't it? Very painful. It is said that in the Bible it says that this world is it's a valley of tears. That's all it is. There's so much pain. Because no matter who you love, they're taken away from you. We are bereft. Prabhupada talks about this eventuality in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, the 28th chapter. You will know it. You will have read it. We have read it many times. Queen Vidarbhi, she loses her husband, Puranjan. And Prabhupada equates this heart-to-heart relationship between the king and between the queen and her king to the disciple and his guru. And as she is mourning him, suddenly realized that he's passed from this world. Prabhupada comments, he says, figuratively, the queen is supposed to be the disciple of the king. Thus, when the mortal body of the spiritual master expires, his disciples should cry, exactly as the queen cries when the king leaves his body. But then immediately he says this, Prabhupada cushions the blow. He says, however, the disciple and the spiritual master are never separated, because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple, as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called the association of Vani, or words. Physical presence is called Vapu. As long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master. But a couple of purports later, Srila Prabhupada says sometimes the feeling of grief is so intense. He says that just as a woman sometimes enters voluntarily into the fire of her husband, so the disciple sometimes wishes to die following the Guru. And Prabhupada translate that, he says, a devoted disciple would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the Guru's mission. 200 years after Ramanujacharya, the great medieval poet and philosopher Vedanta Deshika, he gave a list of 14 qualities of the Guru. And I chose these because I thought that he was particularly reminiscent of what I saw in Kadamba Kanana Maharaj. Sat Sampradaya Siddham, firmly established in the Sampradaya. Stiradiyam, his mind remains firmly fixed, even in debates, based on deceitful reasoning. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj had a very good guru for debating. Dirghabandhum, he is a friend and a guide for all those who have sought his refuge, always seeking their welfare and lifting them up to the ultimate destination. Dayalum, he has spontaneous compassion and kindness for his disciples. Vedanta Deshika also talks about the qualities of the disciples both before the Guru's passing and after the Guru's passing. That we should, as disciples, have an eagerness to learn the Guru's spiritual teaching, to excel in helping him in his service to his Guru, to become humble, and to work hard at becoming free from pride. To be always eager to hear the instructions of divine grace, to have faith in Shastra, and ready to undergo, as he did, any tests in our service. And then Pillai Lokacharya, who was a contemporary of Vedanta Deshika, he said that the disciple has two main duties: to preserve the teachings of the Guru and to expand them, making the Guru famous in this world. So as disciples, are you prepared to make Kadamba Kanana Swami Maharaj famous? Please do that. You have limited time at your disposal. I would like to see, as Maharaj has asked, he said, I want my disciples to be known as being kind. To be kind. Yes, Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam, fixed in the Shastras, fixed in Brahman, but to be kind. Perhaps as he did, to have Kirtan, as he said in his last message, chanting every day, hearing every day, serving every day, and being kind. Please help in publications. There was a great deal that Maharaj had to share with the world, and to have kind exchanges that he did, helpful, encouraging, guiding, and uplifting. We're so lucky that something unique was created in ISKCON. We have a sannyasi spiritual master, grand spiritual master, and a sannyasi disciple, and we can take shelter of them all. So I thank you very much. Kadamba Kanana, Swami Maharaj Ki Jai.
His Grace Kripa Maya Prabhu Ki. So Prabhus will now have a short video presentation. And some of you may be in this video, photographs in particular, for it really encompasses all this Sankirtan and all the projects and achievements which Kadamba Kanana Maharaj achieved specifically in the UK. So this is the first of the two videos which we'll be presenting shortly. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram.
His Holiness Kadamba Maharaj ki. So now, Prabhus, we'd like to humbly request our resident sannyasi, His Holiness Atmanvedana Swami Maharaj. Atmanvedana Swami Maharaj, just to mention, many years ago, he had project managed the building of Dharam Marg, and no easy task. And for, if you could imagine Maharaj on his hands and knees digging up the road, literally, that was what was happening, together with that construction. So we'll always be indebted, and of course thereafter Maharaj became part of the furniture here. Now I've been told to behave myself and be serious, but I'm trying my level best. But Maharaj, please do come and share us your association words and wisdom, and do please talk about the Dharam Marg as well.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Trimandansa Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuzulmitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namaha Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So of course, this evening we have gathered here to remember and glorify His Holiness Kanana Maharaj. So I don't think it is appropriate to speak about what I did here. Basically, I did nothing here, except I was very fortunate that I had some place to go and stay, and I have food and lodging. So I'm very grateful to the Bhaktivedanta Manor and Srila Prabhupada that he has given me this opportunity. Otherwise, I would be suffering in the material world, no job, no money, no nothing. But here, everything is for free. All I have to do is chant Hare Krishna. So this is the great mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that he has given us such a wonderful opportunity, at least here at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, that we can come and take shelter. And nobody is barred from coming here, except you must be fully faithful to Srila Prabhupada. So, of course, on this occasion like this, I am generally stumped for words. Otherwise, I can speak like a record player. So, unfortunately, I didn't have very close association with His Holiness Kanana Maharaj, but I have heard from many of his followers, his activities. And of course, in the last days of his stay on this planet was miraculous, you know. And somehow I think that if we are blessed with cancer, we will be most fortunate, because at least we will know our time is going to end very soon, and we can prepare. So Kadamba Maharaj, you know, when he found out about his unfortunate situation with cancer, he took it in his stride and said, okay, as you heard from Jayadvaita Swami, that rising to the occasion, and he took it in his stride and said, okay, this is inevitable. So he prepared himself. So I think that we can take a great lesson from His Holiness Kadamba Maharaj, that we are all in the same predicament. If not today, then tomorrow we have to go. And when we become devotees in Krishna consciousness, it is a beginning for our preparation to leave this world. Generally in the material world, you know, you want to be successful, You want to establish your empire and you think you're going to live forever. And you work on those goals that you're going to be here forever and ever. But time and tide waits for no man. Inevitably that end comes. But in our Krishna consciousness, we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us wonderful Krishna conscious philosophy that we prepare to live, we don't prepare to stay. And in his lifetime journey for preparing to go back to the spiritual world. Now, it is very nice philosophy, going back home, back to Godhead. But it's not easy to go back to Godhead unless until you are completely free from any material attachment. And as we heard from Swami, that how Kanana Maharaj rose to that occasion, and he was saying that our devotional service should be completely unmotivated, uncontaminated. Now, most of us, including myself, unfortunately, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, with the motivation that I will become pure, I'll go back to Godhead. Now, that is motivation. And actually, Srila Prabhupada describes in Nectar Devotion, devotional service means free from contamination, free from motivation, should be unalloyed. So even our chanting should be such that we are not aspiring to go back to Godhead, but we are just chanting for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. When we come to that understanding and actually chant purely for the pleasure of the Lord, then we are on the right platform and we are on our way back to Godhead. So of course, Kanana Maharaj, besides his many wonderful, glorious activities and offerings he has given to ISKCON, he was a great Kirtaniya. He loved Kirtan. Wherever he went, he just cooked up a huge Kirtan. And not just cooking up Kirtan, but he inspired people to chant and dance. And that is the essence of someone who actually has appreciation for the holy name. Because if you don't have appreciation for the holy name, then you cannot induce others to chant, let alone chant yourself. So of course, I was fortunate enough that I had attended a number of Kirtans by His Holiness Kanana Maharaj, and the Kirtan were so enlivening and electrifying that you just have to get up and start dancing. You just can't sit on the floor saying, yeah, it's cool. No, it's just automatically, your soul gets so excited that you have to jump on your feet and start swaying left to right, and dance. And that is the spirit of the holy name. Because when he's chanting the holy name in a pure way, then it induces others to chant and dance. But if you're just chanting for entertainment purpose, and there are so many great entertainers who chant also with great musical abilities and entertain you with their vocal cords, but it will not induce you to get up and chant and dance. And this is the power of the holy name. When it's chanted purely, it induces you to get up and chant. So of course, as I said, I was fortunate enough to be in a number of Kirtans with Kanana Maharaj here at the Manor, also in Vrindavan when he was a temple president, and I was fortunate enough to go to Vrindavan, and he would sing in the morning, especially the morning Mangalati, when singing Vibhava Vesesa. It is just electrifying. And if you have some recordings, you listen to that, you will see that he raises you from the material platform on a spiritual platform. And that, I think, is his perfection. So, obviously these gatherings are nice, and we can speak about the glorification and the offerings Kanana Maharaj made, or for that matter, any other Vaishnavas we glorify. But we have to learn a lesson from their lives. Each person has got a great teachings for us, that they live the life as a devotee, as a surrendered soul, and we, as aspiring devotees, also should learn from these individuals how to become perfect. So, Kanana Maharaj, as far as I was following him, unfortunately I was not in Vrindavan at the time, I was in Indonesia, but I was constantly on internet and following his progress and getting the daily bulletins about his progress, and they said that, oh, Guru Maharaj is feeling weak today, but he was doing this, he was doing that. And he was showing by his own example that even in that predicament, he was inspiring everyone, that nothing is lost, but everything to gain. And in the last moment, he actually showed us, as Srila Prabhupada himself, in his final days, which we all know now, that was the final lesson. So in our movement, by Prabhupada's mercy, he has given such a wonderful, rich Vaishnavas in our culture. And there are many, many wonderful Vaishnavas who have successfully finished their lives in the material world and serve Srila Prabhupada in his mission, and then go back to the spiritual world. And we should be taking this as an inspiration for us, that no matter what situation we may be in our own individual personal situation, but here are someone who is giving us an inspiration, a guidance, how to follow in their footsteps. And if we can follow in those footsteps, then we can also become successful, because it's not easy to go back to God, as I said. But we have great role models in our present day ISKCON. Of course, we look at the history of our Vaishnavas, and we have many, many great Vaishnava acharyas, devotees, who left this material world in a glorious way. But these are the people in our midst who are showing us by their own examples how to live this material world and dedicate our lives. So we have to take inspiration and make that vow seriously. Of course, for the disciples, the Guru is their life and soul. Although in this day and age, I think we have some difficulty in accepting Guru as life and soul, because they want to minimize the position of the Guru. But you see, Guru is a position, it's not a person. And when a person occupies that post of a Guru, he is giving you his personal example of how to lead your life. And we sometimes minimize due to our own shortcomings, or our own less realization or imperfection. And we see imperfection in these persons. But I say, anyone who has come to Srila Prabhupada has been especially blessed to become a perfect representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And anybody who has taken up the position, externally they may not be seen as great Vaishnavas. Because I don't think Lord Brahma had, when he created a little spotlight on the forehead saying, now I am pure. Accept me as pure. No. We have to see someone by his personal activities, his attachment for chanting, attachment for serving, without any motivation. And that, for me, is a yardstick to measure a purity of the person. Because dedication is what is required. And these great souls who have shown us by their own personal example how they've dedicated their lives for preaching Krishna consciousness, and giving us by their own personal example how we should also live our lives and become successful. So for me personally, I feel greatly inspired by Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, that if ever time comes when I have been given that final warning that you're going to go, I want to follow in his footsteps and go to Vrindavan and peacefully live surrounded with loving devotees. That is the perfection of living this material world. So I think our Nila Madhav is getting a little impatient that side. So from my corner of my eyes, I'm saying, stop. So I will stop here. Tukma. Hare Krishna. Jai His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.
His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj ki jai. So now, Prabhus, we have a beautiful song which is going to be sung. Not 700 verses, but as we all know, Sandipni Muni Prabhu, on his guitar, writes and composes many, many songs. So we're very fortunate. This is entitled Losing Guru. And as we're waiting for him to set up, as it were, at the back over there, we have devotees there at the back, and there's a book table there. And Prabhu's here in the room, we do have the Supreme Minister of Book Distribution in the UK and possibly beyond. So we have to distribute books, don't we? So encouraging everyone to please do take a look. There is one particular book which is not available online. It's available tonight. So devotees are encouraged to take that book and take it home. Of course, pay for it as well. Thank you all very much. Sandeep Nimoni Prabhu, over to you.
Is there sound? Oh, here we go. Can you hear the guitar? Or? I feel really honored to be sharing this song. I wrote this song in 2016. My spiritual master, he left, and when that experience happens, it leaves you feeling so alone. Because when you have your spiritual master, you're protected. I used to remember when I would serve Gurudev, and in those moments it would feel as if Maya Devi cannot come in that space. And everyone share that experience when you're with your spiritual master. Your desires for materialism, they don't exist. His Holiness Kadamba Swami, he was this incredible personality. I remember once in New York, he was singing Kirtan in Times Square, and I was there for work, and I finished, came out, and I could just hear this voice, and I thought, wow, that's Kadamba Swami. It sounds just like him. Someone playing it got there, and he's singing so loudly, and everyone's dancing. So I write songs in English because I was brought up in English, and it's my way of praying, and it's so important for me to write my prayers to Krishna, to Guru, to Srila Prabhupada. This song is called Seeds. All of us, we're all seeds, and the Guru sees that potential and plants us. Seeds have grown to their close. I see thorns, but you see rose. I'm so glad I'm yours. Crashing down to the floor. My head is low, but you stand tall. I'm so glad I'm yours. The devil's knocking on my door. I turn him down, 'cause I want more. Oh, I'm so glad you're mine. And I've been waiting all my life to be by your side. So keep on pulling me. I know it's not make-believe. And I've been waiting all my days to see you anyway. So keep on grabbing me. I know it's not make-believe that I'm yours. I wait and wait to see my fate. The choice is mine, but I hesitate. I'm so glad I'm yours. Heaven's knocking on my door. I turn it down, 'cause I want more. Oh, I'm so glad I'm yours. And I've been waiting all my life to be by your side. So keep on grabbing me. I know it's not make-believe that I'm yours. like to ask everyone just to close their eyes and take a deep breath as we chant Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Swami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Sandipti. Wonderful. So now we'd like to request another one of our resident sannyasis. We have a number of resident sannyasis. And this is one of the youngest resident sannyasis. And so he hasn't really achieved as much. However, in the future, and the future is upon us, sky's the limit. For today, I was just mentioning to him that you have to provide shelter for each and every individual on this planet. 7 billion individuals. Whoever hasn't taken initiation, you have to provide shelter. So we'd like to humbly request our resident sannyasi to please come forward, pays tribute to his spiritual master. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj Ki.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you for the opportunity to share a few words. Before I speak about His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, I'd like to begin actually by offering our deep, deep thank you and gratitude to His Holiness Jai Advaita Maharaj. Having Kadamba Kanana Maharaj as our spiritual master is really his gift. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj often told us that my spiritual master, he was so broad-minded, he was so forward-thinking, and he really pushed me forward, and he opened up so many doors for me to serve Srila Prabhupada. And often with tears in his eyes, actually, on one occasion I can recall, he appreciated His Holiness Jai Advaita Maharaj so much for his broad-mindedness. And he said, I'm also trying to be broad-minded just like him. And I remember once driving His Holiness Jai Advaita Maharaj, and we arrived at a place, and Maharaj very much appreciated the navigation system in the car. And he said, Sutapai, you'll never be lost because you've got a really good sat-nav and a bona fide guru. So I was, those words were very reassuring. Today we could speak about Kadamba Kanana Maharaj as a representative of the Parampara. We could talk about him as a deliverer of Shastra. But so much we've been hearing in the last months about Kadamba Kanana Maharaj's desire for devotees to be kind. And therefore today I maybe not speak so much on the Shastric level, but just to speak about his kindness. Somehow or other, Maharaj took an interest in my life. That was causeless mercy. I didn't deserve it. But he really took an interest, and he became a father, and later on more like a friend, actually. And that was very beautiful. Chanakya Pandit says that when bringing up a child, then you need to give a lot of love. You also need to discipline and demand some things. And then you also need to give independence and friendship. And so when I think of Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, he just beautifully brought us up in this way. In the beginning, he brought us up with such love. There were no demands. He was living very, very simple. When he would come here in the early 2000s, then he would just live in the ashram, just simply with all the brahmacharis. I remember one time the water system had gone in the ashram, and it was cold. It was only cold water, and it was in the winter. So everyone was freezing, and then later on in the morning I ran down to Maharaj's room and I said, Maharaj, I'm so sorry that, He said, why? I said, there's no cold water. He said, oh right, I didn't realize. So I thought, did he not take a shower this morning? And then I realized actually every day he was only taking a cold shower, and therefore he didn't even realize. He was living very, very simple. When he'd come here and live in the ashram, he'd be awake very early, often going down to the temple room by 2:30, 3 o'clock, chanting his rounds. And when I asked him for shelter, he never made any demands. He was just very happy to be together. I'd drive him around. At that time, I had a Nissan Micra. And one time, I took him on an 8-hour car ride in a Nissan Micra all the way to Scotland. And that was good association. We had a great time. And then later on, some devotee said, maybe that's not the best way to transport him to Scotland. So there were no demands. He was so kind. He would come, I would organize things, and whatever I organized, he would happily do it. He was just very relaxed. Oftentimes I'd say, Maharaj, is a class tomorrow. Once I told him, Maharaj, is a class, would you like the verse? He said, why? I said, maybe you want to prepare for the lecture. He said, no, my life is my preparation. And I speak. You should be ready to speak on the Bhagavatam at any moment. Your whole life should be a preparation. So he was very kind, just very loving. I remember once I asked him, I said, Maharaj, can you teach me how to play Jaya Radha Madhav like you do it? Because I could play harmonium, but somehow I just couldn't find those same chords that he was playing. So he sat down with me for 1 hour, and we had 2 harmoniums, and he was like singing, and I was trying to copy him, and then he said, yeah, he says, you're good, but you'll never be able to sing like me. I said, yeah. I said, definitely not much. You are one of a kind. He's very kind, just very loving, and he conquered our hearts like that. But sure enough, later on, all of that love turned into some loving demands. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj actually had a very good relationship with Shruti Dharma Prabhu. They were sajatiya actually. They were completely like-minded. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, he would call Shruti Prabhu, he would say, he's shrewd tea. And he said, he's very shrewd, he's very tricky, Shruti Dharma Prabhu. And Shruti Dharma Prabhu would tell me, your spiritual master, he's very tricky. And then I was in between both of them, so they tag-teamed me actually in my life. I was in between these two great, elevated personalities who were always plotting something. And so gradually, many demands came, and I said, Maharaj, you never asked me anything. There were no demands in the beginning. And he said, no, good fundraising means in the beginning you don't ask anything of them, you just make friends. And then when you want to ask something, you ask big. And Shruti Dharma Prabhu also followed this philosophy. So then demands came, and in 2015 he was flying into the country, and then he called me before flying in and he said, I'm coming. I said, yes, Maharaj, I know, we're really looking forward. And he said, let's talk. So I said, yes, of course, Maharaj. He said, so block out 2 days. I was like, 2 days to talk? Like, okay, 2 days, okay. So then we went and we met, and on that trip in 2015, then he said, I was looking at my disciple database, and he said, somehow the day I opened the disciple database just to look at all of the names, I came to your name, and that day happened to be your birthday. And he said, I looked at your age, and you had turned 35 that day. And so he looked at me and he said, so I think you should take sannyas. So at this moment, my subtle body left my gross body and was circumambulating around the light bulb at the top, And then he just laughed and he joked and he explained everything. And 1 hour went by, 2 hours went by, and so he said, let's do it. Let's go for it. So that was Kadamba Kanana Swami. He was really encouraging, very broad-minded, as we said. And I said, Maharaj, well, I'm young. I'm so young. I'm only 35. He said, hey, these things, minimum it will take 5 years. Most likely it will take 10 or longer anyway. Don't worry. Anyway, it took 5 years. So he was just coaching me through that and being very encouraging, very kind. But yes, the demands were there, and he would sit in a room, and then he would become very serious actually, and he would say, our generation, we did it, we tried, we did everything we could. We tried to give our life to Srila Prabhupada. Now it's your turn. Why are you not taking responsibility? There's so much inheritance from Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Is call coming into your lap. Why are you not taking it? Why are you not taking responsibility? Why are you not taking care of it? You have to do it now. Take up the mission. And like this, every single time I would meet him, it would be the same call to take up responsibility for Srila Prabhupada. And he said, just do it. It's an adventure. It's the best thing. He said, sannyas is fun. So like this, he was very kind. And on this occasion, when I went to Vrindavan, then he was very kind to me also. He arranged for his driver to come and pick me up from the airport. He arranged my room. He said, I'm going to get a desk and a chair for you so you can work and write, and he arranged everything. Even when I arrived, he said, here's a lock, make sure you lock your room. He gave everything. And then one day he came into my room and he picked up the danda. And, like sannyasis test drive each other's dandas, it's like, so he picked up my danda. And he said, it's so heavy. It's so heavy. So he said, you carry this around everywhere? I said, yeah, I thought that's part of the life. So he said, come to my room. So I went into his room, and then from his closet he had a danda, so he put it, and then he gave it to me, and he said, here, hold this. So I took his danda, and it was like a feather. It was so light. So he was smiling, and he looked at me, and he said, well, what do you think? I said, it's so light. Your danda is so light. He said, yeah, you like it? I said, yeah, I like it. He said, you can take it, it's yours. And then he said, the sannyas vow is already heavy, so you can have a light danda. But in that, I felt as though there was a deep teaching in that, because he made something that was very, very heavy. He made it very, very, somewhat lighter. He made something which was very, very hard. He made it achievable. He made something which felt very, very far away, within reach. And in this way, this was so much the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who made things, the difficult things, easy. So I know my time is going. So many things to say. In the final, I'll just say 3 minutes is okay? No, 3 minutes is okay. In the final, okay. Yeah, it stresses me out when you stand up. 3 minutes, I'm good on 3 minutes. I went for the final few days, and he was very kind. He was, every day I'd go out, and he wasn't able to go out so much, and every time I'd go out he'd say, yes, Maharaj, happy trails, have an adventure out there. I'd be going, doing programs, and when I'd come back he'd ask me, where did you go, who did you meet? He was just so happy to see a young sannyasi out there on the field. Later on, when I had to leave, then I said to him, Maharaj, I don't know, this was in Kartik at the end, I said, I don't know, now I have to leave, and then you're in this situation. And he said, no, you leave, it's okay, you do your service. We meet in the mission of Mahaprabhu. And he said, anyway, sannyasis don't meet each other, they just wave at each other from the plains when they cross. So he said, you just go on the field and preach. And then I came back in the final days. And when I arrived, I remember that moment actually when I arrived and I came, he was lying on the bed, he was he had become very sick. So it was very shocking. So I came in, I paid obeisances, he could hardly speak, so I went very close to him. So I said, Maharaj, I'm so sorry, it's just been such a busy few weeks. I couldn't make it earlier, but I'm sorry, it was just so busy few weeks. And then he looked at me and he smiled and he said, busy few weeks. He said, it's going to be a busy few months. He said, it's going to be a busy few years. He said, it's going to be a busy few decades. You got a busy life ahead. He said, but don't worry, busy but blissful in the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that way, he really made my life. He gave me so many opportunities and was a loving father walking through that journey, giving love, some discipline, and then independence and friendship, and helping us to make our lives successful by serving His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So thank you to all the devotees here for your kind support. Please keep me under your shelter. Please continue inspiring me, protecting me, and in your association, I'm sure we can do amazing things for this extraordinary movement. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
His Holiness Swami Bhagwan Keshav Swami Maharaj Ki. So now, Prabhus, we turn to our Supreme Director and Minister of Book Distribution, not one book is distributed without his sanctioning here in the UK Yatra. And so, of course, when you give this personality a mic, you have to be careful because we have 5 minutes, Prabhus. His Grace Vishwambar Prabhu Ki.
Hare Krishna. I'll try to keep 3 minutes rather than 5. Maharaj Kadamba Kanana Swami, he was very merciful to invite me in his confidence. I think 1987 when we met in Mayapur. And he offered me a veggie burger. That's how we met. At the restaurant, me and another Italian devotee. I was brahmachari at that time. But was very, somehow or another he liked me a lot. And I liked him, you know, as a devotee. And he told me all about his story, spiritual life, his venture. And that's how we became friends. And then years passed by, he took sannyas, and then he used to tease me, you should take sannyas also, and travel with me. That's a correct Krishna Kirtan, Prabhu, you've seen those exchange in the... So I remember I got married and he came to, before he came to the house for prasad, he said, you know, you should try to take sannyas. I said, but I just got married. Of course he was teasing me, joking. Then we met after a year. He said, so have we made up your mind? Are you joining me? We can travel together, we can have good time, we can preach together. And I said, you know, my wife is pregnant and there's a child on the way. He said, oh, it doesn't matter, don't worry, he wouldn't mind. I said, you know, I just invited a child in this world. I can't walk off. Of course, again, don't take it literally, he was always teasing me. And then in the car park here. So the years passed by like that. But the last time that I saw him, it was at the sannyas ceremony of Keshava Maharaj. That was the time that no more jokes. It was serious to me. I said, he dragged me, he pulled me in that door there. He was actually here. And he said, thank you for all your love and support to Sutapa. You were still Sutapa. This was before your initiation. And I said, it's a pleasure, you know, I love him. And it goes without saying. And then he said to me, I said, I'm sorry, you know, so many, 37 years have passed, and and I used to make a joke, you start, your journey as a sannyasi. I'm just now coming, the Indian joke, just now coming. But on that day, he said, you don't have to worry, you don't have to take sannyas. You don't need to take sannyas. He said, just carry on distributing books every day, the way you are doing. Srila Prabhupada is very happy with you. Your Gurudev is very happy. And then he quoted the 1857 verse from the CC, Chaitasa sarvakarmani mai sannyasi matpara. Just the first line. And I understood, whatever you do it for Krishna, and that's what it means, sannyas. And he planted a seed in my heart that, that's the way to become renounced as sannyasi, to surrender to the service that we have for Krishna. And then we hugged each other, and that was the last time. And then I wrote a message, a confidential private message I sent to Keshava Maharaj. He was in Vrindavan, and he dovetailed the message to Kadamba Kanana, Swami, before he passed away. And he received it, right? You confirmed to me. And I prayed for him, and like Kripamoy Prabhu was saying before, a friend, it's you feel the pain when he goes, just like when you lose a son or a guru. The same pain that I felt in my chest that when my Guru Maharaj passed away. So that type of pain I felt when Kadamba Kanana Swami passed away, because he was very loving devotee, always sharing jokes. He embraced spiritual life in a very jolly way, courageous, that's the word. He was daring devotee, that's even a better word. He was always daring, he was not afraid of anything. And that is why he was successful, attractive personality. He attracted many devotees to Krishna consciousness because of his courage in spiritual life. And inspire the confidence in everyone's heart. Very sincere. And he told me once, if you want to study Prabhupada's books, just open them up, put them on the bed. That's what he used to do. Open up, when he would study about 20 books or 30 books, all the reference, keep them open for the evening, for the next day, and I would do that sometimes before I would give class. And it was a great advice. So I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for all your teasing towards me. And I thank you for the last instructions you gave me. Thank you for the love. I always feel your voice in my heart, especially like Kripamoy Prabhu said, when he would sing the holy name with the harmonium. It was more than a Gandharva. I am a musician myself, and I could see that it was always a very melodious, his kirtan. You could not be, resisting. It was very like a magnetic So, thank you very much. I think I went more than 3 minutes, forgive me.
Well over. His Grace Vishwambar
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu ki. Thank you so much, Vishwambar Prabhu. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj ki jai. So we have just 2 more speakers. Next, we'd like His Grace Sundarananda Prabhu to please come forward. Generally, when you give a mic to a doctor, he sticks to time. Thank you so much, Sundarananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So this is going to be a very unconventional talk, what I'm going to say. Everybody has spoken so from the Shastras. So when I first met Maharaj, I had got the reports from the South African devotees, and the cancer was very advanced. So I was expecting to meet somebody who was going to be very morose and very downtrodden, and here walks in a sannyasi. He was very upbeat and very full of himself. Everything was very positive. So I said there are only 2 possibilities here. Either he doesn't know his diagnosis, or the reports that I've got are wrong. There's no other third way. I've not seen anybody like this before, having such an advanced problem. So I'm just going to read something from Srila Prabhupada's purport, just so that you can see from my eyes what I see his qualities. And Prabhupada says very early in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto, first chapter, the second verse, but the devotees of the Lord rise above such competitions. They do not compete with the materialists because they are on the path back to Godhead, where life is eternal and blissful. Such transcendentalists are non-envious and pure in the heart. In the material world, everyone is envious of everybody else, and therefore there is competition. But the transcendental devotees of the Lord are not only free from material envy, but are well-wishers to everyone, and they strive to establish a competition-less society with the God in center. Fearlessness, tolerance, compassion, full absorption, and being a dheer. So I'm going to share some very intense, loving exchanges with him, just to make you aware how he was in, what was his mood in the last few months. And my fondest Maharaj, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, because you shared this with me. So we went through, he was a very analytic person who was a very, very intelligent patient. He came to me just for my area of speciality. We went through the whole situation together. He wanted to know all what's there in the world. He wanted to meet all the experts, and then we sat down. And it was, he asked me point blank, how much more time? Now, I'm not used to giving the direct answers, and I just wrap around to my patients and give a very roundabout answers. But he just looked into my eyes straight, how many more months? I said, Maharaj, 6 if no treatment, 15 if there's treatment. But he said, treatment will always be continuous, and chemotherapy. I said, yes, Maharaj. But then I'm going to suffer every day. I said, possibly, Maharaj. But I said, Maharaj, but those last 6 months would be very, very difficult, because it will progress, and you'll have so many side effects. So he said what he said. It is what it is. These were the words, and I was shocked. How is this taking so easily? And Keshav Maharaj, probably you don't know this bit, or I might have told you. I said, Maharaj, any unfinished business? He said, yes. He said, I have to get sannyas for him. That was such an intense wish. He wanted to live for that one thing. Anyway, sorry, I might get emotional. So we went through the options here, and I said, Maharaj, you have got faith in the South African doctors. You met, I just want to go back with all this information. And he went away to his States and came back and said, no, no, no. I want you to take care of me. The full package. He wanted an operation through me, and I said, Maharaj, I'm trying to find an alternative for you because I know that it will make your departure very quick and very bad, because it's not an operation for curing, but just to make you better. So fortunately, we found an alternative which he used right till the end, and he didn't need an operation. Anybody in his position, and I'm talking of a patient, would be two things: in so much pain and discomfort, anxiety and fear, and really besides himself. These didn't exist in him at all. Absolute fearlessness. I told him, don't you feel this? He said, well, I'm tolerating. I do feel it, but I'm tolerating. We were in continuous touch. When he went to Vrindavan, we got a package organized in Delhi for one of the best hospitals, for one of the best surgeons to look after him if there was a problem. He never used it. He never used any medication. He stocked up all the medications, the morphine and the whole lot. I presume he never took it because he wanted to be completely clear in his consciousness. Now, what has this taught me? This has taught me that Krishna consciousness, this is the epitome. This is the final goal this is the final product. I will take another name because I consider him the same way, His Holiness Shivram Swami. I've seen in these two sannyasis what really it means to be fully Krishna conscious. All the emotions are perfectly under control. And it is not, they're not faking it, because they cannot fake it. I know my patients can't fake it. It is very, very clear that they have controlled it. And Maharaj had that mood. And it was so beautiful to have an exchange after you've talked about this thing, and then he talks about normal things. How can you talk normally after you had such an intense exchange of 6 more months, Maharaj? And then he said, how's things going with you? I mean, come on, forget me, Maharaj, I'm talking about you. But no, that was him. That is him. We were in regular touch till about a few weeks ago, till on the WhatsApp. And the only time he would write to me, today was a bad day, intense pain. And as a doctor, and I curse myself, I would try to give him advice. He said, no, don't worry, I'm okay. So it was not that he was looking for advice, but just looking at let out. And when you texted me how many days, if he's not having anything to eat, and that really shook me, that question. And I was trembling when I was writing the answer to you. But Maharaj wasn't fazed at all. So this is what we see. This is Krishna consciousness. For a very sinful person like me, like a professional and a doctor, this is beyond anything that I can ever see and ever seen in my 25, 30 years of my career. Thousands of patients. Nothing happens like that. So that's him, and that's the epitome of Krishna consciousness. That makes my faith so strong that maybe one day I can achieve a little bit better control on my emotions. And Maharaj is an epitome. So thank you very much for allowing me to share this. Hare Krishna. Dhanvat Pranam. His Holiness Kadamba Swami.
Sundarananda Prabhu ki. So now Prabhus will show the second video. The second video is entitled The Final Lesson. And it really complements this beautiful final book which Maharaj has written, Forever Present. For his Vani is forever present. And it's readily available at the back over there. I have to kind of emphasize that. Thank you so very much. If we could have the second video. Wonderful.
Such letters are a little intense, and such diagnosis in the material world is also intense. Right? But time is of that nature, that we are all unlimited of time. And so am I. So time brings us. For years I've had an enlarged prostate, which was always giving me trouble. And it was getting a bit worse. So I had, so I thought, let's get it checked out. And I went to South Africa for health checks. We checked out, when they do a full check on cancer, they do what they call, they do a full body scan, they make you swallow cameras, they put cameras at the back door, scans all these things, and in the end, it came out that, that there was cancer in the prostate. We did a biopsy, and it turned out that there was also cancer in the lungs. We did a biopsy of that as well. So they poked holes with a needle, and that's a procedure. That's not just fun. It's sort of. So anyway, we did these two procedures, and I had to recover from that. But yeah, both of these biopsies were positive, and not only positive in terms of cancer, but it confirmed that it was cancer, and it showed also that the cancer was of the same structure as the cancer of 6 years ago. Gradually we're coming to the transition where we say, you carry my desire in your heart. My desire is that you really connect to Srila Prabhupada's Krishna, they get eternal life. Therefore, that's the cutting edge, to serve Krishna, so that we may get eternal life. How to revive our eternal relationship with Krishna in pure devotional service. He did this wonderfully by his words, by his kirtan and direction that he gave, and by all that he accomplished. With heroic valor, he spread and strengthened and protected the mission of Krishna consciousness given to us by Srila Prabhupada.
It's all right. How long is yours? How long is your poem?
4 minutes. I thought as a disciple I'll go and say thank you to Bhaktivedanta Manor and stuff like that, because no one's done that. You can't say it because you are Manor, so I'll as a disciple say thank you for putting the program, hosting and inviting me.
In your heart,
Read your poem.
I will continue to inspire you
stay on this path through thick and thin. When all is blissful, when all is struggle, do not waver. It is, you got the greatest treasure. Never forget. Nowhere in this world is there such wealth. The wealthiest man in the world is a pauper. You have the real wealth. Treasure it. Relish it. Cherish it. Hold it close. Hold it close. Don't become slack, neglectful. Hold it close. Chant every day. Hear every day. Carve these principles in stone. Let them be there every day. And your life will be wonderful. And at the end, go back to Godhead, and we can physically reunite and celebrate there like we've never celebrated before.
His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. So Prabhus, we're about to close our Memorial Day and a whole entire day in memory. But before we do close, I'd like to invite one of the senior disciples of Maharaj to please come forward. Of course, I always think he's just an 18-year-old boy, for he never ages much. Our Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. I'd like to now request him. He's going to also read out a poem entitled Guardians of Vrindavan. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Bhaktivedanta Manor on behalf of the disciples of His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami, Mother Vishaka, Nilamadav Prabhu, Kanaya Prabhu and the team have kindly allowed us to have this program here at the Manor, sponsored by them. And in addition to that, I'd like to say thank you to the Manor and Soho Street and the UK for warmly welcoming Kadamba Kanana Swami on many occasions, putting on many programs, and giving shelter to us, the disciples. And we hope that you continue to kindly look after us in the years ahead, where we need protection, inspiration, and empowerment. This is a poem I had written to Kadamba Kanana Swami on Gaur Purnima. And I had been writing it for a few days prior to Gaur Purnima, and I finished it on Gaur Purnima Day. And it started when we were in the room alone, and Hridai Chaitanya Prabhu from Radhadesh had come from Mayapur, and Kadamba Kanana Swami had said to him, like you are the guardian of Mayapur, I am the guardian of Vrindavan. And for those who know, there's many layers of history where Kadamba Kanana Swami has been the protector, or one of the protectors of the Krishna Balaram project in Vrindavan. Once we were walking from his flat to the temple, and there was a rickshawala. And he said, I was walking ahead of Maharaj in the crowd, and he said, that's Kadamba? And like the disciple in me was like, whoa, what's going on here? how can he say like that? And he said, I said, yeah. And he said, you know, your Prabhupada, he built this temple. And your Kadamba, he saved this temple. For those that know, there's a big history back from decades ago. And it got me thinking about this principle of how he's the guardian of Vrindavan, and in particularly for us disciples. So I wanted to recite this on his 70th Vyasa Puja. I offer my head at your feet, which have traversed the globe through Vraj and concrete, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. From a tough family drama, you fled east in search of truth to create in others good karma, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Enthusiastically calling for Krishna, searching from a dog to God, exploding the Kirtan phenomena, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. The Dutch are stubborn stuff, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada's home was built, later which Kadamba Kanana saved, a labor of love with no guilt, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Going out with a bang, a bullet to start a new chapter, returning with his own gang, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Booze, hash, LSD, and red lights. Amsterdam brings its best to King's Day. Your saffron army singing Harinam delights, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Compassion started Soweto Rathayatra, where you saw them dance to a TV box. Now they sing and dance to the mantra, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Never before shown a matchless gift, from Prabhupada's tree to Fifth Avenue, working to create a paradigm shift, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Sell books, not temples, is the order. When in need, you are indeed. Vrindavan, Madrid, Brooklyn, crossing any border, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. 1997, he receives the order of sannyas. 25 years busy planting bhakti latas. 2022 empowers the next in the line of Vyas, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Pregnant within is life and death, cancer killing our Vapu Seva, whilst your Vani gives us a fresh breath, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Today the Lord advents in gold, your legacy is for all to see. Gathered in Vrindavan we are now sold, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. As you lay in your bed fasting, body crippled with cancer, your samadhi is internal chanting, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. From the first to the last exchange, you penetrate my still cage, putting Krishna within range, for he is my guardian of Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
So now, Prabhus, to end our Memorial Day, I'd like to humbly request Keshav Swami Maharaj. Vaishnav is leading Kirtan, is he? Okay. We thought it was you, Maharaj. So we'd have Guru Puja and Arti. But before we do have that, prepare ourselves for that, on behalf of all the devotees here at Bhaktivedanta Manor, we thank all of you for attending. Thank you so much for sharing this entire day with us. And it's now coming to an end, and I hope everyone got this wonderful Prasadam feast as well. Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna. So we could humbly request Jayadvaita Maharaj to also come on stage. Thank you. So you'd all be encouraged to come up on stage. You don't have to pay obeisance. And flower petals will be given to you. You could come from this side of the room, because the flower petals are over there. So do please come up this side of the room once we begin. Thank you so much.
Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Vando Mui Savadana Mate Vando Mui Vando Mui Savadana Mate Yahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Torihaya Yahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Torihaya Krishna Prapti Hoite Krishna Prapti Krishna Prapti Hoite Krishna Prapti Padma Vakya Chite Te Koriya Aikya Guru Mukha Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Aikya Guru Mukha Arana Gori Ho Mane Asha Arana Gori Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati Bolo bolo Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati Shri Guru Charane
prasade pure sarva asha ye prasade pure ye prasade pure sarva asha ye prasade pure sarva asha चक्षुदान दिलो ये जन्म जन्म प्रभु से चक्षुदान चक्षुदान दिलो ये जन्म जन्म प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति होइते अविद्या विनाशायते प्रेम होइते अविद्या विनाशायते ओहो वेद गाय हर चरित वेद गाय हर चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु लोकनाथ लोकराजीवाना श्रीला प्रभुपाद लोकराजीवाना आहा प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पाद छाया प्रभु कर ओ आहा प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पाद छाया प्रभु कर गुरुदेव कर दया देह मोरे पाद छाया एवया दुषु त्रिभुवाना दुई पाद लैला शराना दुई पाद लैला शराना Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai, Jai, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadhi Pashyatya Deshatarine Saraswati Deve Gauravani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, hey! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga, Gaurahari. Nitai Gauranga, Gaurahari. Jai Sachinandan, Jai Sachinandana. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana. Jai Sachinandana, Gaurahari. Jai Sachinandana, Gaurahari. Jai Sachinandana, Gaurahari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudeva, 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 Srila Gurudeva. Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jai Vaishnav Thakur. Jai Jai Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Patita Pavana Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Pramananda Hari, Haribo.
Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Astottara Sati Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Astottara Sati Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki
Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki, Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki, Braj Bhumi Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki, Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Ganga Mai ki, Jamuna Mai ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Shrimati Tulsi Maharani ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande, His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj ki, Hare Krishna. Oh, glories to the Sambhu devotees. Oh, glories to the Sambhu devotees. Oh, glories to the Sambhu devotees. Oh, glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru Gauranga.
So that concludes the program. We thank you all for coming. We hope you get home safely. And if anybody feels inspired, you can stay behind to clean up, packing away the chairs. Vaishnava Prabhu here and Sankirtan Priya Prabhu will know, how to do the clean up facility. For those who need to rush home, thank you for coming. Hare Krishna.